Hi, Carlos Martin here with Good People Realty, and today I have our friend, our preferred lender, Jeff Lieberman with Expert Mortgage, and we're going to be covering a topic. We're going to have a conversation, and it's going to be common mistakes buyers happen to do a lot of times when purchasing a home and going through a loan process. What do you think about that?
Morning.
Morning.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, Carlos, because actually I have an email, a prepared email that I send to every single one of my prospects from the first conversation that I have with them with common mistakes to avoid. Some of them might seem kind of obvious to you and me, others not so much. So I think it's important to point these things out. The first thing I always tell any prospect is avoid credit inquiries. Some credit inquiries can damage or lower a credit score, so we want to avoid that. We also don't want somebody that we've just qualified for a mortgage applying for a bunch of new credit and incurring new debt, because then they have to be requalified. Somebody leaves my office and they go over to the Mercedes dealership and now they have a $900 car payment that I have to factor in, so we want to avoid that. Another thing we want to avoid once we've seen all their bank statements, their asset documents, is any large withdrawals, large purchases. We qualify somebody with a certain amount of money they have in the bank.
Right.
So if that changes, we have to requalify them. In addition to large withdrawals, large deposits could be an issue, specifically cash deposits. This is something that a lot of people don't realize, but every large deposit in a borrower's bank account has to be documented, has to be explained. Cash deposits cannot be documented. They can be explained,
but come from anyone.
They can come from anywhere, anyone, and so the rules say that in general those can't be used.
Right.
Another common thing we see is employment changes. Okay, we've qualified somebody who works for XYZ Corporation, and if they change jobs sometime between that time and the time they go to closing, that could be an issue, depending on, especially if they change to a new job that has a new, different income structure.
Correct.
Maybe they went from a salaried employee to now they're, getting paid commission based. That could be a problem. So try to avoid any job changes. And the last one, again, might seem obvious, but keep paying your bills on time. I don't know what it is. Somebody hears those good words, "Oh, I'm approved." They kind of let their guard down, and then they forget to pay their Macy's bill. And if we have to repull their credit anytime, one late payment could drop your score 50 points.
Because a lot of times buyers forget that their credit is going to be pulled in the beginning process and also at the end process when you're purchasing a home. So just because the fact you got pre-approved or you're getting the loan approved and you go out and do all these things at the end before you close on the house, that credit is going to be pulled again, and the bank is going to look at everything again just to make sure you didn't do any of those things. So keep that in mind, and avoid these mistakes, because this mistake could cost you getting the loan fully approved at the end, and you don't want to get to the finish line and then find out that there's a problem, because when that happens, it's really very hard to turn back and fix the issue.
Yeah, and I'll give you one example of that. I had a client a number of years back. I pre-approved him. We ran his credit. Everything was fine. Took him a while to find a house, right? And the credit report is only good for so many days. So he came back, got under contract. I went and pulled his credit. His credit score dropped 45 points. Wow. Of course, I start looking at comparing the two reports. What happened is my client, after hearing the good news that he was pre-approved, even before he found a house, he went over to one of those furniture shops and applied for credit, and now had a whole bunch of furniture for a house he couldn't qualify for.
Oh, incredible.
That's why we always say to avoid those inquiries, avoid incurring any additional debt. Once you're qualified, you have to kind of stay within those parameters to make sure you don't have any problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you an example. I had a client that was flying in from another state, and this particular client was a doctor. And I said, "Are you pre-approved?" She says, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm a doctor. I'm approved by a large institution over there." And, I didn't question it too much. What happens is, that person was buying a second property. This was not the first property, it was a second property. She had a lot of bills as far as debt from her student loans. And when it got to the finish line, that person didn't really approve them correctly, and she could not get the loan. And she actually had to hire an attorney to fight the developer to get her deposit back. So you want to avoid that. You want to make sure you're approved correctly. And that's why I like using Jeff, because he analyzes all the numbers, thoroughly, and tells me, okay, this person is approved, and we know that they're truly approved for the loan. And that's so important when you're going through the mortgage process.
Yeah, and I'd say the best thing is just communication, okay? I mentioned the job change things. things happen. Okay, if I pre-approve you and then a week later you get an offer at a new company where you're going to make more money, you want to advance your career, that's fine. Just run it by me.
Right.
We can't find out about these things halfway through the process or towards the end, because certain things could just be a delay with the loan. Okay, we have to restructure, do something. Other things, like you said, could just kill the transaction altogether. So communication is the key. You're going to make a job change. You have some money you need to deposit. You have some bills you have to pay. You have to make some purchases. Just be upfront. Tell us, and everything we'll find a way around it.
Correct. So when you're going through the whole process to purchase a home, communication is key. You want to listen to these mistakes, because all these examples we gave are clients that have done these issues, and those highlights that you put on those emails to send out to the buyers before getting the loans are all just stories that we've gone through. So we want to avoid those mistakes so the loan process could go as smooth as possible and everything goes great throughout the process.
Absolutely.
All right.